When Martin asked Billy Strings to design a signature model, he had the chance to recreate his legendary 1940 D-28, but he didn't.
Billy Strings has said that his 1940 D-28 is his absolute favorite guitar. It's the one that he takes with him everywhere he goes.
So if he loves it that much, why not just build an exact replica of that guitar? I mean, we have seen multiple times that Martin can use the Authentic series to create the most accurate vintage replicas out there, and that's what most signature models do, right?
But Billy had very specific ideas when he wanted to build his guitar, some choices that make it much more than a vintage reissue.
In fact, he made some surprising design decisions that make it very different from a traditional pre-war D-28. So today we are going to take a close look at 3 major differences that he requested and why we think he made them. So the new Billy Strings D-28 comes in at a price of $37.99, a little bit higher than a standard D-28. Does have a Sitka spruce top, not Adirondack like the 1940. Back end sides are going to be Indian rosewood, also not the same as the 1940. Those were Brazilian rosewood, in case you didn't know, Jared.
I did, John, thanks.
Okay, good job. Anyway, it does have a neck change, which is the genuine mahogany modified low oval profile. Now here's where it gets tricky, and it's funny because most of the folks at Martin asked me why he did this when this guitar was released, and some of you are going to find that this is not as strange as what they thought it was. It does have an 1'23" nut width instead of the standard 11/16 or 1'3" that comes in most of their variants. The bridge is made of ebony, and it is the modern belly style bridge. As far as the fretboard, it is ebony with the abalone diamonds and square inlay pattern. That's also a little bit different. It does have a gloss body with the satin neck profile. The tuners are really interesting. This is one thing I really dug a lot. This does kind of pay homage. It's not exactly the same as his guitar, but it is a really unique vintage tuner, butterbean style.
Closed.
It's closed, but not really. It's kind of a cap.
It's almost like the Clouson style.
It is an old retro style tuner that was used, just not exactly the same kind. It does come with a Martin hardshell case. The binding is antique white with the bold herringbone trim. On the inside, there is a custom paper label that does have Billy's pre-printed signature, as well as a blue cabin. Honestly, guys, I don't know the significance of that, so if you guys have an idea, tell us in the comments. I want to know what the significance of the blue tilted cabin is.
So John, now we can jump in, now that we know the specs, let's talk about the 3 biggest differences we found between his 1940 D-28 and the official Billy Strings model.
All right. Well, there are 3, like you said, big differences. This one was a big one, also a surprise to a lot of people. This has a 25-inch scale length compared to the 25.4 that would have been based on most all the other Martin guitars. This does mean that you're going to get a little less string tension, easier bends, smoother playing, but it also softens up the tone a little bit. That longer scale length means more tension, more power, more drive, but I have to say, in playing it, you can definitely feel a softer, if you're going to play lightly on this, it is easier to play clean on this particular guitar.
It's an interesting choice, I guess, if they say, anything you want, Billy, what do you want to do? And just come out with, let's shorten the neck a little bit.
There you go. The other thing that happened here is what we talked about, that nut width, the 23/32. This is only 30-second different than either a 3/4 or 11/16. But I do have to say this, we are asked this question all the time. And if you are like, man, I can't deal with an 11/16 and I can't deal with a 3/4, this might be the perfect one in between. In fact, it probably varies it and makes it more accessible to anybody. So if you are an exclusive 11/16 person, you might be able to bump up that little 30-second. Again, if you're an exclusively, I only play 1 3/4, but this one may fall in that spot there. So the big change, and like a lot of people say you're not going to see this, is going to be all new standard series, including the Billy Strings model, are going to have golden era braces. Now, this is close to what the original pre-war braces looked like before they started scalloping. So it's a different starting point, a different style of scalloping. but it is going to be different, and it's definitely different than the Authentics. Those are going to be tucked like a pre-war. The VTS top, which they chose not to use on this one as well. So
also,
it's kind of
the shifted.
this is
the 1940 would be rear shifted bracing.
I'm sorry, I thought I had talked about it. You're right, I did not.
Yes, so the billy strings, they did forward shifted bracing.
They did. All of the new standard models are going to be golden era bracing, which means forward shifted, different starting style, and a different scallop style than what his guitar would have been. It would have been rear. It still would have been scalloped, but different.
Which does affect the tone quite a bit. We found that just moving that brace forward closer to the sound hole lets that whole belly like really vibrate and resonate. I think makes a huge difference.
And that's why they're going back towards that sound again, because it does make a significant difference. So now that we've covered those main differences in the specs, let's go ahead and rate these using our TAS system here on a scale of 1 to 5, Jeremy. Let's talk about the tone. Tell us what you think of the tone of this guitar.
Well, we mentioned earlier that I think that forward shifted bracing really helps the body resonate, gives it a much deeper, fuller tone. I kind of hear what you're talking about with that shorter scale length, maybe a little less tension on it, doesn't have maybe quite the cutting punch of it, makes it almost a softer tone.
I would agree with that 100%.
But it's pretty pleasant. It's a warm, pleasant tone. I like it. It's not going to probably like clear a room out, but it's still a big sounding full guitar. I'm going to give it a 4.57.
Good job. I like 4.57. That's
and 3/4. I like those fractions.
I am a big fan of the new changes done to the standard series. I like using the golden era. I do find it curious that it's not exactly like his guitar, but I understand to a degree why. This made it more affordable, more like a standard D-28.
Almost like Billy's music itself. It's traditional, but also modern.
There you go, all at the same time. I like it. I like that analogy, Jeremy. That's very, very good. For me, I will say that this is not amazingly set apart from the new version of the D-28, which again, I'm a big fan of the modern changes that they did on the 2025 variant of the D-28. But it does have that shorter scale, and that does change it a little bit. If you want something just a little bit more drawn back and a little bit softer feeling than the new D-28, I would say this is a great choice for you. So again, tone-wise, I personally want to get a little bit more because I'm used to digging in a little bit stronger. So I'm going to give it a 4.6.
Well, then let's get into the setup and playability, John. And we've mentioned this before. Martin is plecking every instrument that comes out. So setup and playability has normally been very impressive on just the entire line we've gotten from Martin.
You are correct. This is a great setup and playing guitar. Again, very unique for me. I'm used to having that longer scale, and I love it. So it's a little soft and easy for me to overplay a little bit. But when I do lighten up and not in a group set situation, just sitting there casually playing, I like it a lot. It is easy to play, a little bit more comfortable. So for me, I'm going to actually give this one a 4.8.
I think what you mentioned for you, you're used to a little bit more tension. Some of us non-guitar players or some guitar players that don't like a lot, they may use light gauge strings. This is a nice compromise. It takes that tension off, but you still have some of that punch of a medium gauge string on there and can feel the difference. So I'm going to get a little higher. I'm going to give it a 4.9 because it's just comfortable feeling.
There you go. All right, build quality, obviously it's really, really great. It is weird to look into the new Golden Era braces. They're not as clean and as sharp looking as what they were doing before, and especially some of these upper end premium guitars. So on the inside, it's back to looking like a Martin guitar. It doesn't have quite that finesse of the Collings and the Bourgeois and those level of instrument, or Billy's Thompson, any of those that are just so meticulous on the inside. Not to say that's anything wrong, it just doesn't have that much detail being put into it. At its price point, I say it's a 4.8 as well.
Yeah, I agree. We're comparing in like price point to get a guitar like this. They're building a very well built guitar. 4.8 myself as well.
As far as the aesthetics on this, I mean, there's not a whole lot to talk about. It's a D-28, HD-28 combo. It looks great. I personally love the throwback of the tuner variant here. I would choose it. I find that to be a deal.
Especially as the player, it's cool to look at from the back of the headstock.
Yeah, it really, I mean, from the front, you're not going to see it. The buttons look exactly the same. It's this player side of this. So it's an HD-28, just that feels different. And there's nothing wrong with that either, because I love HD-28s. So no problem there. I'm actually going to give it a 4.9.
Yeah, it's the iconic guitar that everyone knows with that herringbone pattern on the top and the back strip. It's all just very aesthetically. It's nothing gaudy or crazy looking, but very pleasant and reminiscent of the original.
Expect.
So yeah, 4.9 as well. It's right where they're aiming for.
We'll talk about our Shoppe sustainable mission. Again, we've talked about this before. Does this guitar have reliably and responsibly sourced woods, materials? Martin does a pretty good job of being FSC certified when they pick out their woods. They're pretty good about paying attention. I mean, Chris Martin has been pushing for sustainability for a long period of time. So yes, this does pass our Shoppe sustainable mission.
Now the big one, John, that everyone's asking, what is your impression, your score of the overall value of this guitar?
Guys, this is a really interesting one for me. At $37.99, I really expected when they were going to come out with a Billy Strings. Billy Strings is hot right now. There is a fan base, and they're getting into Bluegrass and Martins, and that's a tradition sound. This should have been an easy space for Martin to go, you know what, let's build a $6,000 guitar. And they would have sold a ton of them.
Most signature models are. I mean, you look at Mayers and Claptons, and a lot of these guitars have a pretty good price tag to go with them. But Billy, to his credit, really wanted this to be somewhat more affordable, and they also have the X series for even more affordable guitar. But yeah, I think just adding his name to it didn't add much price to that,
No.
plus all these differences that have been added.
Absolutely. It's a custom shop guitar at only a few $100s more than what the standard model would have been. Again, in that case, a signature model at $37.99, I'm actually going to go all out here. I think this is a 5-star rating for what the value would be on this guitar. Again, I told you the things that I personally am not so thrilled with it for myself. It's not that I'm not thrilled with it. It's just not choices that I would have probably
If they're
made.
building the John Chapman signature model.
Yeah, it would have probably not been those. But that said, they nailed everything that he was looking for at a price point that is great. It's a fantastic D-28
For only a few $100 more than the standard.
with some extremely exclusive features. So that's pretty cool.
I think your score is right on it. I couldn't see having this price any lower. It would have been lower than the standard model, so you can't beat that. I think it is a 5 all the way to get that signature model and all these extras and do a custom build. And when they do an artist model, that the artist gets some percentage of that back. So the fact that it's only a few $100 more is a pretty impressive feat on their part. 5 points, 5 stars, would recommend.
There you go.
We'll stay here again.
Who is this instrument for? In my opinion, this is for somebody who is wanting, a big fan of Billy Strings, and they want something that kind of is comparable to what he does and his guitar. And, they've seen the Billy Strings and various different Thompson models that have been out for years. Those are very expensive, Brazilian rosewood usually, very high end, and not a whole lot of people want to start there. But honestly, Billy has inspired a ton of brand new young players to get into flat picking guitar, bluegrass guitar, and this is a way to give them an elite product at a semi-affordable range. And I think that's where it really nails it. Again, and also for collectors. If you're a Billy Strings fan, you want a collector guitar. Even if you've already got a great guitar that you absolutely love, I know I would. If they came out with, they came out with a John Chapman model, you'd be first in line.
I'd have like 5 of them in my basement.
You liar.
In the trash can.
You liar.
I think this also bridges a gap to somebody that really is a big fan of a D-28, but maybe wants something that not
Slightly
everybody
different.
has. It's when you have a room full of HD-28s, your guitar has slightly shorter neck, the different inlay pattern, the different tuners on the back of it. All that gives it just a little bit, stands out from the crowd a little bit. And you didn't pay a lot of extra money to have that uniqueness. So they kind of bridged a two-parter, a huge Billy fan or Billy Strings fan, and also just a Martin HD-28 fan that wants something a little bit unique.
I agree with you.
And if we're going to make some pros and cons, John, you already mentioned for your playing, you've got a little heavier right hand. You're used to some of that tension. So you might consider that a con, but that also could be a pro for some other folks, having just that shorter neck. Obviously, there's a reason Billy felt it would help either his bends or just the speed of his playing. He really liked the feel of that shorter scale. Mm-hmm. So that could be considered pro or con. I guess in your case, you might consider it a con.
I don't necessarily, like I said, consider it a con. Like, it's not like but would I prefer the bigger one? I've played short scale guitars I absolutely loved. And I think this is a great guitar, but I also noticed what it sacrifices in order to do it. And that would probably be my biggest one there. The nut width for me is honestly, if you didn't tell me it was a 23-30 seconds, I wouldn't have known. There's more variance in the various different neck shapes and stuff than the nut width for myself. And to me, I'm not seeing that. But again,
how about some pros over the standard D-28? Is the standard D-28 a gloss neck, or is it also satin?
it will be satin finish just like this. A lot of the same sort of things that are happening here. It's just got that cool factor of being a Billy Strings model, something slightly different than what you would expect out of there.
So this guitar isn't just another 1940 D-28 reissue. It's Billy Strings' personal evolution of the instrument. It is built for speed, agility. It is a modern take on bluegrass, just like Billy is.
That's true. You nailed it all the way there. It is a great guitar, something to, especially like I said, if you are a fan, this is definitely worth putting into your collection.
And we're interested, folks, would you rather own a Billy Strings model or a true pre-war spec D-28? If price was no option, you could get both, one or the other. Let's say that it's not worth more to get a 1940. Just for tone, would you rather have a pre-war spec D-28? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what you guys think.
Hey, if you want to check out the Martin D-28 Billy Strings model, look for it on our website. We will drop a link down below.
And also, remember, every purchase over $1,000 qualifies for the exclusive Acoustic Shoppe Dreadnought guarantee, so you can buy with confidence.
Dreadnought, everybody.
Yeah, Dread-Not.
Yeah, you got a great guitar, Dread.
It's a play on the word Dreadnought, John, but it's Dread, don't dread.
All right, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Check out the video next right here in this link where we will see you next time. I don't know what this video is going to be, but it's going to be right here.
I'm clicking on it right now to find out.
It's going to be good. It's probably something to do with the Martin Standard series.